Hola, everyone. I am Professor Botos Esperanza, and today we're talking about something that's going to make your life so much easier in Spanish, los cognados, or cognates. And honestly, once you understand this, you're going to realize that you already know way more Spanish than you think. So, let's start with a quick challenge. What do you think these words mean? Take a look at the words and don't overthink it. Just go with your gut. I'll pronounce them for you. Excelente, generoso, elefante, persona, familia, diferente, instrucciones, cruel, importante. What do you think these words mean? Well, here's the thing. Most of you were probably right, even if you barely studied Spanish. These words are cognates, and that's exactly what we're talking about today. So, what is a cognate? A cognate is basically a word that looks similar in two languages and has the same meaning. So, it's like they're linguistic cousins of sorts. For example, you'll see below some examples of cognates between Spanish and French. Ami, amigo, simpatique, simpático, right? These are different languages, but they're clearly related. It's useful to begin recognizing and using cognates immediately, even as a very beginner of learner of Spanish. They'll help you to enrich your Spanish vocabulary and develop language proficiency more quickly. Now, here's where it gets interesting. English actually comes from a Germanic language family, and Spanish comes from a Romance language family. So you might be thinking, wait, if they come from two different language families, why do they look so similar sometimes? Great question. Why are there so many cognates between Spanish and English? Well, let me tell you a quick story. Back in 1066, William the Conqueror from France invaded England, and he brought the French language with him. For several hundred years, French basically took over government, law, education, culture. What does that mean? Well, basically, English started borrowing a ton of French words. And since French and Spanish both come from Latin, which, Spanish comes from Latin directly, and English gets a lot of its Latin words through French, that's why we see things like nación in Spanish, nation in English, importante in Spanish, important in English, familia in Spanish, family in English. Basically, Spanish and English are more connected than they seem, and that all traces back through that French influence. About 30 to 40% of words in English have a Spanish cognate. So think about that. About half of the language gives you hints, so you're not starting from zero, not even close to zero. But, and there's almost always a but, not all of these words are your friends. There is something called amigos falsos or false friends. They look like English words, but they will trick you. There are some examples on the screen. For example, pan in Spanish means bread and not a pan like you would cook something in. Actualmente does not mean actually, it means currently. And carpeta doesn't mean carpet. In Spanish, it means folder. So sometimes your brain is like, I got this. And Spanish is like, nope. But don't worry too much, though. There are far more cognates than there are false friends. So, just to be clear, false cognates or amigos falsos are words that look or sound similar, but they mean something totally different. So, yes, cognates definitely do help you, but you do still have to pay attention. And this is what I want you to take with you today. Use cognates as a bridge. When you're trying to say something in Spanish, start with the English word in your head and ask yourself, is there a Spanish version of this? A lot of the time, there is. And even if your grammar isn't perfect, you can still communicate. And that's the goal. Not perfection, communication. So next time you speak Spanish, don't freeze, take a guess, because chances are you're going to be right. All right, that's all for this lesson. Hasta pronto.